What's going on, vinyl community? Welcome to another video with the Record Spinner. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a vinyl haul showcasing all the records that I acquired within the month of September this year in 2023. But real quick, before we get into the haul itself, if you follow me on social media, you may have already seen this. But for those that don't, first off, you should. I recently got my hands on some upgrades and new pieces to my listening setup that I wanted to share with you guys. I recently got my hands on the Onkyo TX NR696 receiver and a pair of Pioneer SP BS22A LR bookshelf speakers. This is my first foray in owning a receiver, and this unit is very impressive for being able to connect a turntable, TV, Blu-ray player, streaming box, and more. This receiver is also able to connect a Dolby Atmos surround sound system, and I intend on having an Atmos setup in the future, so this receiver will play a huge role when that time comes. And speaking of Atmos, the Pioneer speakers are Atmos compatible with the extra dome speakers. Now, during my time collecting, my setups have been very straightforward by using integrated or external preamps and powered speakers, and it's nice to sort of branch out and experiment with a different configuration, so I figured that I would share that with you guys. So that's it with the listening setup update. Let's jump into the haul itself, and this month was a stellar month for vinyl finds. Of course, I did celebrate a birthday this month, so there is some birthday VCLT. There's also a new album release from Courtney Barnett, my further explorations in the King Gizzard catalog, some freshly released imports, and much, much more. It's about to go deep, so without further ado, sit back, relax, and enjoy the latest finds. Alright, so we are going to kick this haul off with a rather exciting piece that I am so stoked to own in my collection. And this is one of those rare cases, I don't know about you guys, but like, there's like a certain excitement factor when it comes to getting your hands on something that you have been seeking for a while. Now, as for this, yes, I was aware of its existence and what entailed with it, but it was always kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know that it's out there, I can get my hands on it at any given time, and it just kind of wasn't high on the priority list, but that recently changed. And I want to give a big shout out to my good friend and coworker Chris, who actually had this in his collection because we were looking at his Discogs and what he had cataloged, and I saw that and he's like, if you want it, make me an offer. So sure enough, I ended up getting it for much lower than what it's currently going for right now, and I am very excited for this. So check this out. This is the Raconteurs Help Us Stranger. Now, you might be looking at the cover and realizing that it's the Butcher, and that is because this right here is the Third Man Records Vault Edition, because for the Vault's 40th package, they did one centered around the Raconteurs' then new album, Help Us Stranger. This is back in 2019, and the special Vault version does come pressed on colored vinyl, which I will show you guys. And it looks really cool too. Comes pressed on this sort of marbled green vinyl with flecks of black as well as some copper gold. It looks absolutely phenomenal. And the jacket had this sort of lenticular cover here, as you can see. But if you peeled it, you saw this little homage to the Beatles' Butcher cover. Now, they basically took the photo and photoshopped each of the members' heads, and they kind of made the same kind of facial expressions as the Fab Four did on the cover. And the only way that you can see it is if you literally peel off the lenticular cover. And as you can tell here, my peel, apparently according to some people in Facebook groups, is one of the more cleaner ones that they've seen. You can still see some tears around here where the glue was kind of holding it down, but the rest of it was like the sticky adhesive material. So patience played a huge role with getting that peel done, as well as a heat gun for some extra assistance. But just down to the homage of one of the most legendary album covers of all time, this was definitely worth having. And also, it's a cool colored variant, and I love me some colored vinyl. So I actually parted ways with my standard black vinyl pressing, got my hands on the Vault version. So I am so stoked to have this cool variant. And then Chris was also playing me some King Gizzard recently, and I already have Nonagon Infinity in my collection, which is a phenomenal record, but I feel like I've said it before, King Gizzard is one of those bands where there is literally so much out there that I don't know where to start, and it's very daunting and daring to tackle. But needless to say, he played me this album, and I was like, okay, this is definitely worth snagging, and maybe it's my OCD, but this came out after Nonagon, so there's a little bit of satisfaction with owning the follow-up to that record, just to not break the lineage. But the album that I'm referring to is this one here. This is Flying Microtonal Banana. Now, this is a recent Lucky Rainbow edition because there's millions upon millions of variants of King Gizzard albums. So they come in these sort of compost, cardboard, type of jackets. The actual artwork is inside, which I'll show you guys. Here it is right here. And this album has the sort of subtitle, Explorations into Microtonal Tuning, and that's down to the guitars that King Gizzard uses, where aside from having the traditional frets, there's some microtonal frets that kind of allow for some notes that kind of reside in between each other, and they use them in a composition manner, and it just makes for an interesting way of creating and writing music, which is really interesting. And literally just upon hearing this, I was like, yeah, it's cool, it's trippy, it's psychedelic, it's pretty solid to my ears. So I was really excited to dig into this. And here is the custom yellow guitar that Stu McKenzie uses in King Gizzard that has the microtonal frets. Maybe you can see some of that detail there. And because this is the Lucky Rainbow edition, it kind of comes pressed on a blend of colored vinyl. Does come housed in a printed inner sleeve. And the vinyl itself, this one in particular has like an overall dark olive green hue, and it has some flecks of other colors as well. So you can kind of tell it's like a random rainbow press. They just kind of put colors together, and the end result is the end result, which is kind of cool when you mix colors together. But yeah, very happy that I'm able to sort of slowly further beef up my King Gizzard collection, and now upon having Nonagon in this, I still have millions upon millions to go. But it's going to be a fun journey digging through their discography. All right, guys, new release time. Here is a new album by my favorite Australian singer-songwriter. But interestingly enough, this album doesn't really have her kind of flex her singer-songwriter capabilities. What exactly am I talking about? I am talking about Courtney Barnett, and this album is called End of the Day. And this album is basically a film score to her documentary Anonymous Club, which came out a couple years ago. And the soundtrack of the documentary, outside of Courtney's main music, is basically these little guitar and synthesizer improvisations. And her, as well as Stella Mozgawa of the band Warpaint, and she's also worked with Courtney on numerous other albums and projects, they kind of fleshed this out and fine-tuned it to make a cohesive album. And I gotta say, this is a beautiful listen. It's not really intended to be the follow-up release to her last studio album, which was called Things Take Time, Take Time. But this is kind of similar to when, like, Pink Floyd would do, soundtrack excursions in between albums, such as, like, More and Obscured by Clouds and things like that. So I think this is just an interesting excursion, which makes her body of work even more unique than it already is. And if you are a fan of, like, Brian Eno ambient music, you will absolutely love this. Courtney provides a lot of ethereal guitars, and Stella just kind of lays the bed of synthesizers throughout, and it just kind of, it has its plane that it kind of maintains, but then it kind of just shifts and turns into a couple different directions. It's a phenomenal listen. So if you want a good sort of mood setting album, this is the one to check out. But it's an absolutely gorgeous record. Great front cover of a bunch of tourists in blue ponchos leading up to Niagara Falls. And I guess Courtney must have had a clear idea, because there's a doodle version of that exact image on this side of the printed inner sleeve. Got some credits on this side. And this pressing comes pressed on milky clear vinyl, which is very nice. I think in terms of physical media, this is only available on vinyl. There's no CD version that I can recall outside of, digital and streaming. So it's kind of interesting. So if you really want it physically, you got to get the vinyl. But no, it's an absolutely gorgeous album, and it's also coincidentally the last release to come out on her own label, which is Milk Records, which I've had a lot of fun collecting various artists that are on the label. They're really solid, all based out of Australia. And I'm guessing just because, you know, it is a lot to run a label as well as manage your own music career. So this is the last release on Milk. But who's to say what lies in the future for Courtney, whether if that's signing with a major label or what the next kind of route is. I don't know. So this is a sort of, you know, a nice closing chapter to the Milk Records story, but also just a great, you know, little excursion in Courtney Barnett's body of work. Okay, so recently on the 13th of this month, I celebrated a birthday, the big 26. The quarter life crisis is gone and by the wayside. Now it's time to enjoy the last half of the roaring 20s. So when it comes to, you know, collectors and birthdays, it's just more of a justifiable means to spend money at your leisure on records. And as they say, you got to treat yourself every now and then. So I made the pilgrimage out to my favorite record store, and that's Sky Valley Records in Summerdale. The owner, Chuck, is a fantastic dude. I have done plenty of videos at that shop on my channel if you want to peel back and check those out. And I had been meaning to swing by and see what new stuff he had got in, because it had been months since I last was there. So finally made my way out, and I got myself a small little mini stack. So I mainly went and stocked up on some of the notable unofficial pressings he has got his hands on recently, starting off with one, and it's actually funny that I'm showcasing this because there's a funny story with it. Aerosmith Big Ones. So when I did my unboxing of the Aerosmith Greatest Hits box set, I had mentioned that all that there was on vinyl on compilations was the 1980 Greatest Hits as well as Gems. And I was aware of, obviously, this compilation had come out back in 1994, brings together all of the MTV hits from like Permanent Vacation, Pump, Get a Grip, and a couple of extra tracks. But then some people had commented that there was a vinyl pressing done. I believe it was outside of the US back when this first came out. And it's never been properly reissued within the States. So this unofficial has recently come out. So it's funny that I made that comment, got corrected, and here it is in my hands. But like I said, it's the big hits from that time frame. So, of course, Love in an Elevator, Ragdoll, What It Takes, Dude Looks Like a Lady, Janie's Got a Gun, Crying Amazing, all that stuff. Solid presentation overall. This is a 2 LP set, and it comes pressed on white vinyl, which is very nice. And I'm very excited to give this one a spin on the turntable. And then the other unofficial pressing that I got my hands on, and this is one that I knew that he had because I follow his Facebook group where he posts new stuff that he gets in. This is Jimmy Page and Robert Plant, No Quarter. So this was back when Page and Plant got back together around the 90s, and they put out this album of reimagined Led Zeppelin songs. And I think I bought a used CD copy at an FYE like years and years ago when I was really going deep into Zeppelin, but I don't think I ever actually listened to it. I think I just bought it just because it had the Zeppelin connection. But now, some years later, unofficial pressing is in my hands, and I'm going to experience it for myself. And this particular pressing comes pressed on sort of like marbled white vinyl. Has like a slight sort of beigeish kind of tinge to it that kind of match the labels, but this is really, really cool. So I'm excited to dig my way through some reimagined Zeppelin. And then the other record I picked up, and this is one that I actually specifically went there to get, and that is the newest album by a band called Witch Hazel. This is called Four Sacraments. This is one of those cases where I saw a video ad of this band pop up on my Facebook feed, and I heard it, and I was like, wow, that is interesting. So that kind of is a prime example of how, you know, I kind of subject myself to new music to dig into. And the best way that I can describe Witch Hazel is that it's like a cross between Iron Maiden and Thin Lizzy, but with a more folky twist. It has a lot of Celtic, you know, imagery in their lyrics, and it's absolutely solid if you're into that old school hard rock, new wave of British heavy metal type style. They have a number of albums that came out prior to this, 3 others and a couple of EPs and singles. But when I heard one of the advanced singles off of this, I was like, I'm going to make it a point to check that out. So got it in my hands. Comes with a cool insert with all the lyrics, as you can see there. Here's a picture of the guys there. And this pressing comes pressed on sort of marbled green vinyl, which is pretty cool. Has a sort of Christmassy touch because of the red and white labels. So that's what I got vinyl-wise at Sky Valley. And then, of course, because Chuck knows that I'm a Kiss nut, he had inherited a massive collection, and he gave me a couple of freebies. So he threw in some bottles of Kiss Cola. So we have regular one here, and then we have Cherry Cola. Yes, that's with a K. I'm keeping these intact because these date back to 2017. I can only imagine what they taste like now, so I'm keeping these intact. These will be for display purposes. He also gave me this hotel key back when Kiss played at the Foundations Forum in 1993, and I actually have a bootleg of this exact show, which is in one of the Chronicles box sets. So I was cool to have a little piece of memorabilia from that show. And then he also threw in one of these because what Kiss fan wouldn't want one that has Gene Simmons' tongue going all the way down? Good stuff. Okay, so here is some birthday VCLT from my good friend Emma over at 8 Vinyl Low. She is one of the youngest members of the VC, and she had actually asked me if I had any records by this particular band, to which I replied no, so I can only assume what direction this was going to go in. But anyways, the band that I am talking about is the New Pornographers, and this album is called Mass Romantic. I've only heard a couple of songs by this band, but just never really have delved deep into their discography, so this is going to be a solid primer for me. This album came out back in 2003, and this is a deluxe pressing that Matador had put out a couple years ago in 2021. The main LP itself does come housed in a nice printed inner sleeve with lyrics, band photo, and liner notes. And it does come pressed on red vinyl, which is very cool. And there's also a bonus 7-inch consisting of a couple of B-sides as well. So very solid release, and definitely excited to sink my teeth into some New Pornographers. And then the other record she sent me, I could have only guessed that this was going to come my way at some point, given that she has been going on at great lengths about this particular band and this album. And I know that our friend Marican over at Marican's Music, another youngest member, had received this for her birthday. So something tells me this album is going to be making the rounds to everybody. But the band that I am talking about is the Midnight Callers, and this album is called Rattled Humming Heart. This is just a phenomenal piece of power pop. We actually listened to these guys a little bit back when we did our little post-NOLA after party when we went to Chicago and saw Cheap Trick and checked out the record stores there. We listened to these guys a little bit, and they sounded absolutely sick, and I am so happy that Emma hooked me up with this album. And this pressing is also really cool too because it comes pressed on orange vinyl. So between these two releases, I have some fun, further explorative listening to do. So thank you very much, Emma. All right, guys, so we are going to wrap this haul up with a massive bang. My godmother got me some amazing birthday gifts, and she managed to complete yet also beef up my Beach Boys Analog Productions collection. Now, funny thing with the Beach Boys stuff on that label, if memory serves me correct, the license has run out for Analog Productions to press up and release the various Beach Boys titles that they have put out over the years. So whatever is left up on Acoustic Sounds as of filming this clip, once it sells out, that is it. So as Chad Kassem likes to say, buy now, regret later. So she managed to get me Surfin' USA. This is the original mono mix. This was the one that honestly I have been needing for the longest time, and I just never quite got around to it. Of course, includes the title track as well as their cover of Mr. Lou, Farmer's Daughter, Shutdown, all that good stuff. And I'll just showcase at least one of these so you can kind of get the general gist of what entails. Nice insert specific to all the Beach Boys releases with some liner notes and scans of tape boxes. There's the catalog there. And of course, as always, Acoustic Sounds catalog so you can find out more wise ways to spend your money. And of course, as always, all Presta quality record pressings, virgin vinyl, mastered by Kevin Gray from the original tapes. They replicate the Rainbow Rim Capitol label, and they all sound amazing. I literally cannot say any more good things about these pressings. But aside from Surfing USA, she also got me the big kahuna. Pet Sounds in stereo, 2 LP, 45 RPM. According to Mike over at the In Groove in Phoenix, this is the best sounding version of this album. Now, here is the funny thing with the stereo mix of Pet Sounds. So, back when Pet Sounds first came out in 1966, there was the mono mix, and then there was the duophonic reprocessed stereo mix. In 1996, for the Pet Sounds Sessions box set, there was a stereo remix done digitally, and that is the source for this pressing. However, that high-res master was transferred onto fresh tape, and then Kevin Gray mastered this pressing from that tape. So for the sake of it being all analog, and sure, there is a digital step in there, it's still technically analog. But seriously, an absolutely gorgeous package all around. Honestly, just given the scope of the arrangements on this album, I think it's best witnessed in stereo. Just gives it a more cinematic approach, because I was really debating between getting the freshly sparkling new stereo version or actually getting the 45 RPM mono version from the original tape. But something tells me this is going to be a very thrilling listen. But also, look at the gatefold here. This was not included with the original. We got some photo outtakes from the album cover photo session with liner notes from all the recording sessions for each track. All good stuff spread across 2 LPs. And I gotta say this for a special occasion, because tears might be shed when I play this. Seriously, this is one of those albums. I gotta say, not to go off on a tangent, but it is thanks to this record that kind of paved the way for my music tastes from when I was in college to the present day. So this album did a lot for me and my music taste. So good stuff. I can't wait to revisit this record. Now we're moving on to stuff that I recently purchased, just to kind of wrap things up. Of course, you know me, I'm a big follower of the Brown Acid series by Riding Easy Records, and they keep putting out volumes. This one here is called the 16th Trip. I filmed this clip, and they just announced the 17th Trip that's coming out next month in October. But of course, it is all more heavy rock from the underground come down. So this is just hard rock, proto-metal type stuff that sits well alongside, you know, your Sabbaths, your Zeppelins, your Deep Purples, you know, all that stuff. You know, just rare, obscure 7-inch singles or cuts from albums that are privately pressed and go for big money. And they put out these compilations, and they just give you some great nuggets of hard rock and proto-metal. Nice custom center labels there. And bet you probably next month I'll have the 17th Trip, and I'll be showcasing more of this stuff for you guys. But I have every volume so far, so I got to keep up. But these are absolutely fun and sensational to listen to. And then, like you saw earlier in the haul, kind of slowly been dipping my toes into the King Gizzard waters. For the longest time, I said that the reason why I never really tackled their catalog is because it's already so massive, but I am gauging it based off of what I have been listening to, thanks to my coworker Chris, who also played me this album that I decided to get my hands on. And that is I'm in Your Mind Fuzz. So this album came out back in 2014, and very much in the garage rock, psychedelic, you know, jam kind of vein as the early King Gizzard stuff is. This is a recent pressing. Not gonna lie, I'm not a huge fan of these sort of cardboard type covers. I mean, the sticker on the front's cool, but also it is prone to being torn. But the jacket is sensational. Check this out. So I don't know if you can really catch it on camera, but there is some nice embossments with the details of this cover, and it even comes with like a Japanese style obi strip too, which is really cool. Nice embossment too on the track list there. And then, of course, we have a printed inner sleeve here, some photos of the band, all the lyrics, and it comes pressed on recycled black vinyl, which is basically all the vinyl trimmings and such regrounded and reused, which is a nice eco-friendly way of going about things. And also, too, I mean, you would typically think that it would be prone to like surface noise and this and that. I did not hear any issues with this pressing. Low-key wish it was colored vinyl, though, just because it would match just the cover so well. Make it like a lime green kind of would be nice, but can't win them all basically. And the other King Gizzard album that I picked out for myself, this one I kind of picked up more just for the cover and the vinyl alone. This one is Float Along, Fill Your Lungs. This is way before I'm in Your Mind Fuzz. And this is a recent Venusian Sky editions. This is another one of those sort of cardboardy type covers. Jacket comes housed inside. Cool, kind of trippy type cover of the band members there. Here's the back cover. Lyrics on this side. We got some credits. But like I said, I kind of got this mainly because of the color of the vinyl. But obviously I listened to some samples and I was like, all right, I can get behind this. This sort of comes on a sort of blue, black and white sort of starburst kind of colored vinyl. Has some slight marble to it. And it kind of changes streaks in various points of the record. So it looks absolutely awesome, and I can only imagine how deeper I'm going to be going down the King Gizzard, Lizard Wizard rabbit hole. So there you guys go. That is my vinyl haul of all the records that I acquired within the month of September this year in 2023. If you enjoyed this video, please go ahead, give it a like, and subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video, and most importantly, keep the records spinning.